Solving decimal equations is very similar to solving equations that contain whole numbers. You must remember to use inverse operations to get the variable along on one side of the equation. Let's try an example. Before we begin, I want you to look at the equation. What operation is being used? Well, I see 2 5/10 is subtracted from r. Well, what's the inverse operation? The inverse of subtraction is addition. So in order to solve for the variable r, I'm going to go ahead and write the equation. Remember, I want to get r along on one side of the equation. I'm going to use the inverse of subtraction. I'm going to add 2 5/10 to both sides. So I'm going to add 2 5/10 to the left side, because whatever you do to one side of the equation, you must do to the other side in order to remain balanced. So I'm going to add 2 5/10 to the right side. When you add, you end up with r equals, remember, negative 2 5/10 plus a positive 2 5/10 is 0. Now let's add 6 3/10 plus 2 5/10. Remember to align the decimal points, which I have done in addition, and simply proceed. 5 and 3 is 8. 6 and 2 is 8. So my solution is 8 8/10. Well, let's check to see if the solution is correct. I'm going to rewrite the equation again. And the way you check it is to simply substitute what the value of r is into the original equation. So I'm going to substitute in place of r 8 and 8/10 minus 2 5/10. Is that equal to 6 3/10? Well, let's see. Since we're subtracting and they're both tenths, I can do that mentally. 5 from 8 is 3. 2 from 8 is 6. Does 6 3/10 equal 6 3/10? It does. So the solution is 8 8/10. Let's try another one. Let's try this one. 7s equals 9 1/10. I'm looking at my equation. Notice it's multiplication instead of subtraction. It's 7 times s equals 9 1/10. Well, what's the inverse operation of multiplication? It's division. So I'm going to use the inverse operation. I'm going to simply divide both sides by 7 to undo the multiplication. 7 here, 7 here. Well, remember 7 divided by 7 is just simply 1. So what's left? I get s equals, well, we can do this also. If you have a calculator, great, but 7 will go into 9 one time, decimal point, because that's a whole number, 2 left over, and 7 will go into 21 3 times. So the solution is 1 3/10. That's the value for the variable s. Let's check it. I want to make sure that this is the correct solution. I'm going to come over and write the equation again. And the way, again, you check it is simply to substitute in place of the variable s 1 3/10. Let's try that. I'm going to put 7, and I'm going to substitute here 1 3/10. And let's see if that is equal to, is that equal to 9 1/10? Well, let's see. 7 times 3 is 21, with 2 left over. 7 times 1 is 7, plus the 2 is 9. Does 9 1/10 equal 9 1/10? Guess what? We got it right again. So 1 3/10 is the solution to the equation 7s equals 9 1/10. They're getting easier, aren't they? Let's do one more. Make sure we've got this operation. Okay. I'm looking at the equation. I see division. I see x divided by 6 equals 2 5/10. What's the rule? Use the inverse operation to undo. Well, since this is division, I'm going to use multiplication. That's right. What am I going to multiply both sides by? By 6. So it's x over 6 times, I'm going to use a red pen this time, equals 2 5/10 times 6. Okay? When you multiply x divided by 6 times 6, what's the product? It's simply x. Because remember, these 6's will divide out. Equals, what is 2 5/10 times 6? Well, 6 times 5 is 30. 3 left over. 6 times 2 is 12, plus the 3 is 15. So our product is 15, just a whole 15. Let's check this one. I want to check this one just to make sure. Go back to the original equation. X divided by 6 equals 2 5/10. What do? You substitute in place of the variable the solution 15. So I'm going to put 15 over 6 equals 2 5/10. Well, let's see. I'm going to come over and I'm going to divide. I think I have a little space right. I'm going to come over right here. Let's divide 6 into 15. 6. I'm going to do it with a red pen. 6 will go into 15 how many times? Twice. 2 times 6 is 12. Notice I have a remainder of 3. Well, let me add a decimal point. Let's add a 0. So if I add a 0, I have to add a decimal point. The decimal point goes right above. And I add a 0, bring it down. 6 will go into 30 5 times. And it goes evenly. 5 times 6 is 30. So this is equal to 2 5/10. Is 2 5/10 equal to 2 5/10? Yes. So once again, my solution is 15. When you're dividing or when you're solving decimal equations, they work the same as solving equations that contain whole numbers. Just remember to use inverse operations to undo the operation.